Hi, my name is Christi Cazin, and I was asked to tell my story and share our journey with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So, in 2018, we had three children, just moved into a new house, my husband and I, of almost 17 years now. Um, we had a 6-year-old boy, 8-year-old boy, and a 2-year-old little girl. And we started to notice our 8-year-old seemed to kind of have trouble climbing stairs suddenly. He seemed to be pulling himself up. And I distinctly remember one day him playing in the kitchen and his leg just collapsing and giving out underneath him. And that was alarming. And my husband and I looked at each other and just decided it was time to maybe pursue physical therapy or something. There were no major indications of this disease. There's no family history at all. I had never heard of it really. And so we went to the pediatrician about a week later. And when we told him everything, he agreed that physical therapy was worth a shot. And he didn't see any other reason to be alarmed until he asked us to have our son get up from the floor. And I guess the way he got up, now I know it to be called the Gower sign, but the way he got up was by sort of pushing his elbows onto his knees and kind of pushing himself up that way. So you could tell that he needed a little help with his strength. And I didn't think anything of it until he had another doctor come in and watch him get up again. And then my husband and I locked eyes and just knew, based on the doctor's eyes and reaction and look on his face, that something was terribly wrong. And he told us that he was going to refer us to a neurologist, but he wanted both of our sons to go. So of course that struck us as odd. And my husband honestly just bluntly asked, what's the worst case scenario? What are we looking at here? And he said, I think it might be muscular dystrophy. We went home. Kids were happily playing in the background. And suddenly we just decided to look it up. And my husband remembers watching a video that kind of explained the progression of the disease. And from that moment on, he was convinced that this is what they had. They didn't, walk later in life or anything. They didn't crawl later. They weren't premature. There was no crazy indication of this. It was just maybe they were a tad bit slower on the playground. So there was no reason for us to be looking into this. So we both had a meltdown and just felt helpless and scared. And the next few weeks were just a whirlwind of emotions, blood tests, unanswered questions, and just fear, to be honest. Our daughter was only 2 years old, and we had our two boys who were 6 and 8 at the time. And it was just such a hard thing to explain to a child. Why are we having these tests, Mom? What's wrong with me? What do you think it is? And finally, my 8-year-old needed an answer from me. Why are we getting all these blood tests, Mom? And I said, just honestly, honey, they're looking for a muscle disorder that you might have. And he stopped and paused and looked at me and very calmly just said, Mom, this is just how God made me. And I remember from that moment on that if this is our life, then God is going to walk us through it, and he doesn't make mistakes, and this is going to be our story. So I better get on board and live it and try to live it the best I can. I'd like to say that was the case from the beginning, but I hit a pretty big phase of depression, anxiety. I was consumed with getting every possible information and research out there that I could about this disease. They did not know which kind it was, so they just kept saying muscular dystrophy so I did get a call saying their CPK levels, which are supposed to be, I think an average person's about 80, their levels were above 16,000. So that alone was enough to diagnose them with muscular dystrophy. But we didn't know which kind. Duchenne being the most severe, but the most common, was our biggest fear. But after the genetic testing came back, we found out that it was in fact Duchenne for both boys. And after that, We both went through a lot of time just accepting and trying to come to terms with this new life. It was just a completely different life. All of a sudden, I didn't feel like the same person. Trivial things didn't matter. I just, I couldn't believe that out of nowhere, we were suddenly Duchenne parents, special needs parents, whatever you want to call it. We just had this normal life, and suddenly it wasn't normal anymore, and it never ever was going to be. Uh, After that, we went through a lot of ups and downs with trying different treatments, trying steroids, trying to look into clinical trials, which we kind of just missed the cutoff on some, and then others we found to be too risky for our particular family. And finally, we tried a couple different things that did not work out, treatments that we decided were taking the joy out of our lives. So we stopped them, and then we just decided to live our lives. And we decided from then on to just find joy in the journey and to cherish every moment, because if there's going to be less for our children, then we want to cherish every single one. And yes, we're human, so we still bicker and we still have moments, but from then on we really had a different perspective, and we felt like different people. And I'm so grateful for that perspective. I don't want my children to suffer, of course, but as their mother, I feel that it's an honor to take care of them, and I feel that it's a calling. So I like to look at it that way. It comforts me to think that my husband and I were created to take care of them, not the other way around. And God gave them as these precious gifts. And just because they have a disorder that means their muscles will deteriorate over time does not mean that they can't have a beautiful, joyful, faith-filled life. And so that's what we were determined to give them, and still are, every day. And sometimes we crash and we fall apart, and we cry out to God and ask, how are we going to get through this? But somehow every day God helps us do it. And it's been almost 4 years since that day, since that time in our lives. And my boys at that point could still run around and play and do all the normal things they could do. And now we homeschool. We are in a brand new house, not a brand new house, but a different house. That's a 1-story, and we've been able to get some renovations done. Family and friends have been amazing to us. We've been blessed with enough money to purchase a mobility van. Our boys are now both in power chairs full time. They are no longer able to walk. My oldest stopped walking at 10, and my youngest stopped walking at 9. And we have so many hard moments, and so much grief that we deal with as we grieve, each loss and each new transition and new way of life. But we also have so much joy, and our daughter is just a light and loves to help take care of her brothers, bicker with them too, but take care of them. And my husband and I have been through so much together, but are stronger for it. And he's my best friend, and when I fall, he picks me up, and when he falls, I like to think I pick him up. But really, it's God that picks us both up. And I think this is the reason for our attitude, that we are able to have this resiliency to, find a new way for our sons to do things that give them joy. Like I reference in my article, we can't always do the things that other people do. We have a different life, and the world is not made for disabled people. It's just not. You can't be a Duchenne parent and drive by a park and not tear up a little bit, because that those are things you used to be able to do and you can't do anymore. But there's so many other ways to have a beautiful day, and you can still enjoy the sunshine and For example, my husband puts on roller skates or rollerblades and chases them around the neighborhood and races with them. And my daughter gets on her bike, and they're in their power chairs, and they're proud that they can go the fastest, and they definitely can. And I will hold on to the back of the power chair with my rollerblades on because I don't want to fall. But there's so much joy in every day, and even through the pain, we always know that there's a purpose in it. And I am always comforted by the fact that when we have a difficult moment, it's always followed by a beautiful one. So that's my story, and we're still journeying through it, and we're still having ups and downs, but we love our life, we love our children, and we wouldn't have it any other way. So I hope you've enjoyed hearing about our lives, and I hope you can find some inspiration in it to cherish every moment and enjoy the days we have. Thank you.